What's up, everybody? Yes, it is me, Adam. I know I look different with this hat on, but it is still me. We're continuing talking about the 5 faith catalysts, the things that we can intentionally do to cause our faith to grow or to help cause the faith of students to grow. The first thing we talked about is practical teaching. Then we talked about private disciplines. And then we talked about personal ministry. There's 2 more left today. I want to talk about providential relationships. Providential relationships. Relationships that when we look back on them, we're like, whoa, that was ordained by God. It's like God put this person into my life, whether for that moment or for that season or maybe for the long run. And so how do we get kids to have these kind of providential relationships in their life? See, we can't always decide who God is going to use in our lives. And so this one's a little bit more tricky, but think about it. Every person who I know, when they tell their faith story, they always talk about, and then I was at this critical moment and this person showed up in my life where I met this person, or this person was there for me, or this person walked with me through this hardest time of my life. We all have people who we can point to when we think about our stories. We're like, man, God put that person in my life for that time. Like, I had a person who I believe was a providential relationship in my life, because the first day that I met Katie, who wasn't my wife at the time, but we were first meeting, I had a friend named Karen Jernigan who went up to Katie and said, hey, this is the person who you're going to marry. Boom! I believe that God used Karen to plant a seed in Katie's mind and in her heart that I was the one for her, because I didn't know it at the time. She didn't know at the time, but we were going to fall in love. She was my dream girl. We were meant to be together, but maybe if Karen hadn't planted that seed, things might not have gone that way. I don't know, but I'm thinking God put Karen in there, and I didn't recognize it at the time, but as I look back, like, whoa, that was a providential relationship. I can think of people like Tom Radigan. I can think of people like Jeannie Mayo. I can think of lots of people in my story who God used their relationship with me to help my faith go to the next level, or to take a next step, or to grow in a significant way. And so I want to encourage you with this, is that your relationship with your students could be a providential relationship for them. Like, here's a challenge. We don't always see this right away. We don't see the fruit, but in youth ministry, oftentimes God uses you to be one of those providential relationships in your students' lives if you're a small group leader. It just happens, okay? And you're not going to see that fruit now, but my dream for you guys is that you'll get 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, and the students that you were hanging with when they were in middle school or when they were in high school, they're going to look back and they're going to tell their story, and they're going to talk, man, I remember Nate. He was always there for me. Every Sunday night we would hang out, and sometimes he'd show up in my games, and he would always encourage me to live for God, and boom, God used him to help me through my teenage years. Or my dream that our students are going to say, hey, I remember Sarah was my leader when I was in middle school, and my life was wild, and I had all these crazy stories, and she would always listen to my stories, and she'd pray for me, and she'd give me advice, and God used her in a huge way when I was going through this crazy time as a 7th grader. Or my dream is that when students tell their story in the future, they're going to point towards you and how God used your relationship with them to help their faith to grow. And so let me just encourage you that what you're doing as a small group leader, God could use you as one of those providential relationships in your students' lives. And so keep it up. Keep loving them. Keep showing up consistently, because this takes time. The longer you do this, check this out, the better chance you have at being used by God in your students' lives. All the people who God was using in my life, I didn't necessarily see it at the moment, but when I look back, oh, that was a providential relationship for me. So I believe God wants to use you to be a providential relationship in the life of your students. So keep loving them, keep serving them, keep showing up, keep praying for them. He is using you even when it doesn't feel like it. I love you. I appreciate you. Peace.